us. So today we are going to do the Module 3 live lesson for 8th grade. I want to go over Module 3, our narrative unit. Because of Hurricane Irma, there are some things that are exempted and combined, and I want to make sure that everybody understands what to do for this lesson for Module 3. So if you have your graphic organizer from last week, you can pull that up. 3.02, this was due last week, and I know it was a short week because of Thanksgiving, so I wanted to take a minute and review. Last week you had 3.01, which was a quiz, and 3.02, organize your narrative due. That's a graphic organizer for the narrative, the short story that you're going to write. If you did not do that yet, or you had trouble with that, it's on the pace chart. So just like everything else, make a copy of it from the pace chart, and then you can write on it. Okay? Questions? Thumbs up if you have completed 3.02 or you know what you need to do to complete 3.02. If you have not yet completed 3.02, guys, please make sure you have it done today. This is a pretty busy week. This week and next week are pretty busy for language arts. It's probably going to take more of your time than it normally does, so plan accordingly. And I know that in 8th grade, I know a lot of you have some really intensive classes, so just really budget time this week for all of your classes. So I looked at the pace chart, and this is exactly from the pace chart. We're going to go over this. I'm going to break down every lesson and assignment, and then at the end we'll review. So if you are stuck or confused, hang out with me at the end, and I'll help you. Okay? You can also call or text or email me if you have any questions. So this is what's due this Friday, and please, please, please be on pace, okay, guys? So 3.03, get verbal is a quiz. 3.04 is exempt. It's the narrative introduction. You will turn that in with the body of the narrative for 3.06, okay? So 3.04, you still need to read the lesson. It tells you what to put in the narrative introduction, but you won't turn in anything for 3.04. 3.05, read the lesson for 3.05. It's about dialogue, but you do not have to take the quiz. That's exempt. And then for 3.06, read both the lessons, but only turn in 3.06, which will contain both the introduction and the body paragraphs. So for 3.06, you're going to put the introduction and the body of your narrative. Okay. All right, I'm going to repeat myself because I want to make sure everybody gets this. 3.03, read the lesson, do the quiz. 3.04, read the lesson, don't turn in anything. 3.05, do the lesson. The quiz is exempt. You don't have to do the quiz. So you're not turning in anything for 3.04 or 3.05. 3.06, you are going to turn in the introduction and the body paragraphs for your narrative. Thumbs up if you're good. Thumbs up. Thumbs up if we're good. Okay. If that is confusing, hang with me. At the end, if you're still confused, we'll go over it, okay? So let's kind of break this down. 3.03, you're going to read the lesson and take the quiz, okay? It's not too difficult. Go over 3.3, read the lesson, do the quiz. It's about language, okay? Grammar, that type of thing. So read 3.03 and take the quiz. Do that today, guys. So 3.03, plan on doing today. So tell me when should you do 3.03? Everybody write it down. Chat with me. When should you do 3.03? Come on, there's more than 4 of you in here, guys. Work with me. Yes, today. Yay! Give yourself a round of applause. Today. Please do 3.04 today, okay? Yes, thank you for playing along, guys. Good job, Gabriel. Good job, Jamie. Yay, Justin. Okay, so 3.04, thank you, Faith. Thank you, Sergio, for playing along. 3.04, begin your narrative. A lot of you have been with me in years past, and you know that the modules build one on another from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So this is a narrative writing. The difference is you're adding a little bit more, just like we did in the essay. So this is your narrative, this is your short story that you're writing, okay? You're not writing an essay. Module 3 is a narrative creative essay, or creative story. Narrative creative story, okay? In your introduction, you want to introduce the character, establish the setting, and hook the reader with an interesting quote, vivid description, interesting or outlandish fact. So tell me, for Module 3, what is your story prompt? What are you supposed to be writing about? So for Module 3, what is your story prompt? Grounded, yay! The continuation of Grounded. Awesome job, guys. Thank you. And for those of you who are like, huh? What are they talking about? If you go to 3.02, the first thing it says is to read the narrative Grounded. Okay, so it tells you to go to 3.02, and it's also on the other assignments, and read the narrative for Grounded. Okay, I just put it in the chat box. It wouldn't fit in my slides, but it's about Kate and Mr. Jax and Darby. Okay, and the last line of it says, Kate was determined to find a safe way out. The airport food supplies were almost gone. She was getting desperate. Hold on, I lost it. She couldn't wait any longer. She turned away from the airport filled with fear and guilt, and just where do you think you are going? Asked a deep voice. It was followed by a small bark. Okay, so that's your story starter. You need to start from there, and then where you go is up to you. You need to keep the same characters and the same setting initially, but what happens next is up to you. Okay, so this is the start of the story. What happens next is up to you, and that's where your creative narrative comes in. So let's look at that a little bit more. So this is the 3.04 assignment that you'll turn in for 3.06. It's your introduction. Okay. The first thing, using the ideas from your narrative organizational chart, write the introduction. Be sure to select your story's narrator and maintain that point of view. Review the story and writing prompt on which your chart was based. And your introduction, I'm not telling you how many paragraphs it's going to be. This is not an essay. It does need to be at least 100 words. Remember to introduce the character, establish the setting, hook your reader with an interesting quote, a vivid description, or an interesting or outlandish fact. Okay? So when I am grading your introduction, this is something that you're turning in for 3.06, I'm looking that you introduce the character, establish the setting, hook the reader, and you have at least 100 words. Questions? Jamie, just keep writing, okay? You can pick up in the character's point of view, okay? You can pick up in Kate's point of view. Okay. All right, so that's the introduction. 100 words, introduce the character, establish the setting. And remember, for those introductions, you want the character, setting, outlandish fact. You know, Justin, that's a good question. Something bizarre. Does it take place in the future? Is it the year 2070? Is it the year 1840? Does it take place on a different planet? Something along that lines. Something that's unbelievable. Okay? And remember, the fact is kind of in quotes because it is a fiction story, so you're making it up. Right? The only limit on this is your imagination. You have to follow the setting and the characters that they gave you. Where you go with Kate, that's up to you. Okay. So 3.05 is exempt, but I want to go over a couple of important things on 3.05, and I still really expect you to read it take notes on it. It may show up in the final exam. Okay? So what briefly 3.05 talks about is dialogue. And you must have dialogue in your narrative. So why dialogue is important is because it makes your story interesting, it develops the characters, and advances the action. Okay? If your story doesn't have any dialogue, it can be dull. Dialogue will show us about the character. How does your character talk? What words do they say? Right? And it advances the action. And then the rules, this is the important thing. And we've gone over this in years past, but I just want to make sure because everybody should have dialogue in their narrative. Anytime you have a new speaker, you have a new paragraph. So if Kate said, I'm leaving this place, you would do a new paragraph. Mr. Jacks replied, no, you're not. So every time you do a new speaker, a new paragraph, okay? Quotation marks around the exact spoken words, punctuated and capitalized normally, and your pauses and breaks, use your commas and your ellipses and your dashes, okay? Gabriel, really good point about the dialogue. It can either improve your story or just drop it and make it dull. And that's why you want to make sure that your dialogue relates back to your story. Don't have your characters talking about the weather if the weather doesn't matter to your characters or the story. Okay? If there's a big snowstorm and that's why they're at the airport, then yes, they can discuss the snowstorm. And that will, instead of saying there's a really big bad snowstorm, you can have Kate and Mr. Jacks talk about the snowstorm if it's applicable to your story. If it doesn't really matter to your story and nobody cares about what the weather is that takes place in your story, don't have dialogue about it, right? Make sure it's relatable. It helps make your story interesting. The key thing is that dialogue should develop the character and advance the action, right? Give me a thumbs up if you understand that. Thumbs up if you understand that. Awesome. So you must have dialogue in your narrative, okay? Must have dialogue, good dialogue, effective dialogue, developing dialogue, right? Awesome. So for dialogue, here's an example. And this is something that hopefully you understand to do by now, but just in case, every time a new speaker talks, you start a new paragraph. Tia's eyes were wide as she exclaimed, wow, I can't wait for the sequel. Chandra shrugged. The kid next to me was texting the whole time. Start a new paragraph here. Start a new paragraph here. Sylvie looked at him with sympathy. That's annoying. Why didn't you ask her to stop? This is how yours should look. Every time a new speaker talks, you start a new paragraph. Okay? And hopefully this is a review for you guys. But if not, that's okay. You're here to learn. Okay. Now, 3.06, the body of the narrative. Dun, dun, dun. This is what you're doing for 3.06. This is your body. It's not paragraph. Don't think of paragraphs like body paragraph from the essay. This is your big part of your story. So the introduction is a small part. Body is a big part of the story, and then you have the conclusion. Okay? So the body of a narrative, you want structure and voice. With structure, you're looking at plot structure. So you need that rising action and that climax. And then voice. You want to make sure that your readers feel like they're part of the story, where you use descriptive words and phrases and sensory language. Pull the reader in, make the reader feel like they are experiencing what your characters are experiencing. Okay. 2 events of rising action and 1 climax. The climax, that's a big point of action in the story, where you're revealing who the antagonist is, or who solved the mystery, or it's the big car chase. The big point of action at the end. So for 3.06, this is what you're turning in, 3.06. You want to include your introduction and the body in this assignment, because remember, you don't have to turn in 3.04. You have to write the introduction, but you're turning it in for 3.06. So you want to review the writing prompt on what your chart is based. look at 3.02, your organizational chart, and then write the exposition of your story. That's your body of your story. You want to include 2 events, a rising action, a climax, sensory language, and dialogue. And here's something that I know that you all always ask me. How many words does it have to be? Your body of your narrative needs to be 300 words or more. Please don't give me 10 pages, okay? But don't give me 200 words either. Write your story. 300 words for just this assignment, excluding I can. Jay-Rain, you can handle it. You're tough. You're big 8th graders. Okay. So, and guys, honestly, 200 words double spaced is 1 page. So this is not a bad thing at all. So you are going to do 3.04 and 3.06, okay? You're writing the story. Jeremiah, make sure that you are staying focused. Jamie, you don't have to count. What I would do is, in my Google Doc, I would just do a word count, okay? 300 words is about 1.5 pages. 300 words, size 12. Don't give me like size 18 font, okay? If you can look at the Google thing and it'll tell you word count. But if you do like size 12 Times New Roman or Arial, it's about 1.5 pages. Okay? 1 page Times New Roman or Arial size 12 is 200 words, double spaced, okay? And remember, you guys, you're almost in high school. This is not something that you can't handle. All right, this is not something that you can't handle. You're almost in high school. This is writing the introduction and the body to a narrative story. All right? Questions? And you know what, you guys? My 6th graders are writing their introduction, their body, and their conclusion this week. And they didn't whine about it at all. So my 6th graders also have a conclusion this week, and they're writing about the same length as you guys are. So I need you guys, you can handle this, all right? Now, do next week, just so you know where we're at for next week, because like I said, remember, everything is due that December 19th. So I want you guys to plan ahead, and I know that you have a lot due in all of your classes. So next week, 3.07 transition time is exempt. 3.08 resolve and reflect is 1 assignment, and that's where you write the end of your narrative. And then, believe it or not, next week is a DBA. Now, because you still need to write the conclusion next week, I'm moving the DBA from Monday to Thursday. So there'll be a live lesson DBA next Thursday at 10 a.m. Okay? If you cannot make the live lesson DBA, then you need to make an appointment on GenBook. So let's review about what's due this week. And it's really not as bad as what you guys are thinking. So do this week. You're reading 3.03 and doing a quiz, and you're going to do that today. 3.04 is your introduction. Work on that tomorrow. Work on the body, the introduction, the body of your story tomorrow and Thursday, or tomorrow and Wednesday. 3.05, read through that. It's exempt. And 3.06 is your body. So that's due on Friday. So if you get 3.03 done today, you work on 3.04 tomorrow, and you work on the body 3.06 on Wednesday and Thursday, you should have no problem getting this turned in by Friday. Questions? You can go ahead and write, Justin. Good question. All right. If you have any questions, please hang out. If you don't have any questions, you may go. Have a fantastic day. The DBAs usually run about 20-25 minutes. You'll be ready for math at 11 next week. That's fine. That's why I did 10. No problem, guys. Thank you for coming. Remember,